10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on? I was expecting a little bit more there, but welcome to the Jets Guru post-game show. Daniel here with you. We're going to have Ramon and Chris on in a second. Welcome to, it's like the first time in a long time that I felt happy as a Jet fan because the season is over. We don't have to watch what was one of the worst seasons of all time to watch as a Jet fan. We don't have to do that anymore. It's over. Now we could just focus on moving forward, right, as a Jet fan. And I'm sharing on some pages right now so I can get as many of you guys in here as possible. But yeah, it feels good to be in the off season. And the biggest thing, and the Jets wasted absolutely no time in doing this, was firing Adam Gase. I mean, they went right to it. They ran up there. They just made sure everybody was in the office. Everyone got things clear, and he was gone. And that's exactly what needed to happen. Adam Gase needed to be fired from the New York Jets. He was an awful, absolutely awful head coach. And you know, the problem is Adam Gase didn't have time, you know, to sit back and look at what he did wrong coming from Miami. You know, he got fired from the Dolphins for a reason. He, you know, if he was doing well, if he was doing what Brian Flores is doing over in Miami, he'd still be there. And he got fired for a reason. And immediately after he got fired, he got picked up from the Jets with absolutely no time to sit and think what he could do better going into this new job. And the Jets hired him, and ever since then, young players have regressed. The team has been awful, coached awful, led awful, and you saw the results. And it's really, really sad because, you know, I think Darnold, as he was going, looked like he was having a future in the NFL as a really good starting quarterback, and he regressed, and now you're kind of just seeing, I think, what his ceiling is, which might be a good thing for the Jets moving on. Right? You know, you might find out that you found out a little bit earlier, a little bit more harsh that, you know, he looks more of like a game manager. He's not a guy like Ricky mentioned who's possibly could be available like Deshaun Watson, who even when you take away weapons and linemen and coaches and schemes, he could still go out there and throw for 350 in his sleep and compete from the offensive side of the football. But, you know, Gase, the problem was they brought Gase in to kind of to take Sam Darnold to the next level. Only they didn't explain how that was actually going to happen, right? They didn't say, oh, well, we're going to do this with him, or we're going to try to swing him to do this or get him to learn that. It was just Gase is a quarterback guru. Let's bring him in. We all bought the juice. And then we were like, okay, let's see what they have. And then you look around the NFL and you look at guys like Josh Allen. You look at Lamar Jackson. You look at Kyler Murray. And you're like, those are coaches who put together offenses, okay, that work well with the quarterback. They go hand in hand. They help each other out. And that's not what you had in New York. And the biggest example of that was when Joe Flacco came in. Now, Joe Flacco is a former Super Bowl winner, okay, and he's played in some big games. He's got a big, deep arm, and the Jets have wide receiver weapons when healthy that can get yards. And they proved it this year, several times this year. If you throw them the ball, they can get the yards, right? And when Joe Flacco came in, the offense sparked. And to be honest, once Flacco came in, ever since then, the offense has looked a lot better because they finally figured out they could throw the ball down the field. They just needed a different quarterback. But the problem is they needed a coach to put an offense around Sam, to see what Sam does best, right? Sam isn't the drop back quarterback that Flacco is. Sam isn't the deep ball thrower that Flacco is. And that's why Flacco had success with Perryman. And Perryman had his best stretch of his Jet career in those windows where Flacco played, because he's a deep threat. He is a go down the field, throw the ball up, let him run under it, and he's going to dust a lot of guys. He's going to have good games. He's not a possession receiver. He's not like Crowder, which is, Darnold's favorite target. But if you look at the difference in targets, who were Flacco's favorite targets? Mims, Perryman. Who are Darnold's favorite targets? Berrios and Crowder. So they're two different quarterbacks. Flacco likes to push the ball down the field. Darnold is the underneath guy. The problem is they didn't use Darnold's athleticism more. They didn't do hardly any run pass options. I know some of you guys are being like, oh, well, Darnold's not a running quarterback. Yes, he is. I've seen it with my own eyes. The kid can run with the ball, and he could be taught. Well, we could teach guys how to throw the ball, change their arm angles, stop them from padding, doing this and that, but we can't teach them how to run when they have athletic ability? Of course you can. And it was something that was never harped upon, because that is not the offense that, guess who? Adam Gase runs. He wants the drop back quarterback that runs his offense and throws the ball down the field and pushes it down the field. Sam is not that guy. You got to have rollouts. To me, you had to develop a run pass option, not to use it all the time, but you saw it when Sam ran a few times this year. You could see he's got some athletic ability, more than enough to pick up yards. I know quarterbacks who are less athletic than him that are picking up yards, more yards a game. So the way I see it is he was misused properly. And in that misuse, it was going through a bad team with interchangeable pieces in a line, and he didn't grow properly. And then his mechanics started breaking down. And then it just didn't seem like he had that same spark again that he had, his rookie year. Look at Sam Darnold. He hasn't had many great games. The Jets haven't been very good. But even when the Jets do play good, he is not outstanding. He's just, if Sam has a turnover-free game, everyone gets excited, right? They're not like, he'll have 200 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, and people will act like he went out there, threw for 375, 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns and interception or something. Like, people have to relax with that, okay? And I think you could have got more out of Sam in a different offense. I could see Sam going for 250, 260 a game with like 35, 45 rushing yards, maybe a rushing touchdown here and there. I could see him doing that if you can get him on the outside and you start to teach him, right? You start to say, hey, look off that safety, man. Look off that backer. If you're going to lock on a receiver, you have to make your legs be a threat. Because if not, they know that you're going to hold the ball to the very last second until you get rid of it. So they know you're not a running threat at all. It makes their job a lot easier. Now, if they made Sam more of a running threat on the edge as he was rolling off, which he's had plenty of opportunities to do, holding the ball too long, padding, which created issues in his mechanics, in my opinion, watching the games, because he's on the outside doing one of these, waiting for someone to get open. Listen, go through 1, 2, you're rolling out, not there, tuck it, run. You get 4 yards. Second down, you hand it off, you get 3 yards. Another run, first down. Another rollout, first down. Put pressure on the team, right? If you're not a drop back quarterback, if you're not a guy who could throw the ball down the field with accuracy, right, and hit your guys, then you got to be dangerous underneath, because you're not Chad Pennington. You don't have the completion percentage and the accuracy to do what he did. So Sam is neither that guy, neither is he the gunslinger that can go out there and throw for 350 yards. He's somewhere in between with athletic ability. So Gase was brought here to do this for this man, and he did not. And he even admitted so, and he was fired. And we're going to get into the coaching search a lot more, right, as time goes on, which actually we'll probably do the episode on the coaches next week. That'll give us another week to see who the Johnsons have called in and Joe Douglas has called in to interview, and we'll start saying who our favorite picks is. If they pick a coach, we'll discuss that and move on to a different position. But we're not here to talk about Sam Darnold or Adam Gase for the rest of the episode. We're here to talk about running backs, right? Every year after the season is over, okay, we go through the whole roster and we talk about each player at each position, see how they did, if you want them to return. We talk about available free agents, and we also talk about college players to kind of give you a rounded, good opinion of what's out there for that each position, because a lot of you guys don't have the time, right? So you watch the show, you want us to give you some information, so here it is, right? So let's bring in Krista, let's bring in Ramon, let's get them in the discussion, and I'll start throwing some things at them. And so, as always, thank you guys for coming in, and thank you for all you guys tuning in. Love the support. Please jump on our YouTube page and subscribe. We're really trying to take it to the next level. That starts with sponsorships, and the way you get there is by having high numbers, not only on Facebook, but YouTube. Even if you're not on YouTube a lot, just pop on there for us, please. Hit the subscribe on Jets Guru, and then you could jump off and jump back on Facebook. But let's go through the running backs on our own roster first, guys, right? So we're gonna discuss that. It was, to me, a tough year, right? The Jets ran for 1,600 yards. And as a whole, with running backs and wide receivers running and everything, we ran for a 4.1 yard per carry. Obviously, all those little tiny runs up it, a lot. But listen, I like what Frank Gore gave us sometimes, but it was just misused too much by Adam Gase. I mean, It was just, you knew what Gore was, and as the season progressed, you wanted to see the young guys. You really didn't get a whole big opportunity to do so. So it's really, really tough. It's like, I love the guy. He showed a lot of heart. He wanted to win, but I wanted to see more from the younger guys. So you're looking at Frank Gore, 3.5 yards per carry, 653 yards on 187 attempts, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was a mediocre year. I mean, to be honest with you, and I'm not even lying, if you're going to have that, I'd rather have a guy like Bilal Powell, who's already said he's healthy, running the ball, because at least he's a career Jet. And so I would have rather seen him run the football, because how many times did we talk about Bilal Powell not getting opportunities throughout his whole career? He's old too. So why don't you give him a shot, since nobody else was trying to, and he always did well. Every time he ran the ball, it seemed like he was falling forward. And so to me, what they did for Frank was nice. They got him at 16,000 yards, whatever. Great. Thank you. Pack it up. We ain't going to see you again. I'm pretty sure of it. And so moving on to Ty Johnson, played 11 games, 254 yards on a 4.7 yards per carry rushing rate. And that is what's so staggering, is that every time this kid touched the ball, and I think you guys will agree with me, he popped, right? There was a lot of times on the edges, especially running on the left side with Becton early on when they first started using him. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? I had to look him up, and I'm like, what? The Lions drafted him, and then they let him go, and he was just drafted last year. Young guy, he runs up straight. He has good quickness once he gets going. He can run on the edges. I like Ty Johnson, and I like what he provided, and we were begging his fans to get him going. And that's one of the reasons why. When you have a 4.7 yard per carry rushing rate, and especially LaMichael Pirine went down for a little bit there, you were expecting him to, be used more, and he just wasn't. So that for me, that was just a real headache with Gase all season, and then you move on to LaMichael Pirine, 64 attempts, so 10 more attempts than Ty Johnson. He had 232 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. With LaMichael, again, misused, not used enough. There were scenarios where I thought he was running well, and then all of a sudden he would disappear, and it would go back to Gore. But to me, he definitely didn't run as well as Ty Johnson. In my opinion, this year, I thought Ty Johnson was the better back. I thought if you had to choose a guy to be your starter, right? Just saying, I'm not saying they're going to be. I'm just saying if you had to choose a guy to be your starter, to me, Ty Johnson popped more than LaMichael Pirine. I would rather use actually LaMichael catching the ball out of the backfield over Ty Johnson. But I like Ty Johnson. And if the Jets can hold on to him and they can keep him, I think he would be a nice back where if the Jets don't feel like wasting high capital on like a Najee Harris or Etienne or something like that, why waste a late round pick, when you could get a lineman or a linebacker or something like that on a running back when you've already seen Ty Johnson and you kind of like what you've seen with a patchwork offensive line. And then that you already have LaMichael, so LaMichael could be interchangeable with anyone that you bring in. And then you have this other guy called Josh Adams. the mystery guy who everybody wants on their roster, but nobody actually wants to play the guy. I say it all the time. He never gets any chances. Well, what does he do every single time he does? He balls out. When he was with the Eagles and he filled in, and when kind of like the underground hype started, with Josh Adams, he played very well, and then the Eagles never went back to him. And then it's kind of like the same thing with the Jets. Every time he gets a few touches, he looks good. He had 29 attempts, okay, so half or a quarter of what the other two guys had. 5.4 yards per carry on 157 yards with 2 touchdowns. I thought him and Ty Johnson looked really well together in the backfield. And so, I was begging for Gase, especially this. After that 200-yard performance that those two guys put up, the thing that I like about the New York Knicks, right, and what they're doing right now, they have a new head coach in Tom Thibodeau. And one of the things he preaches is defense. But another thing that he preaches is that you have to earn your minutes. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a superstar and you're not earning your minutes, you're going to sit down. And that's just how he is. He'll call timeout with the quickness and sit you down. And he'll put the hot hand in because that's important. That's part of your job as a coach to look at what's going on. Austin Rivers, for some of you guys don't watch basketball, I'm doing comparisons, right? But Austin Rivers scored 14 straight points against the Utah Jazz yesterday. Okay. Austin Rivers just came back from injury. He's been splitting time with some guys coming off the bench, him and Quigley, right? Well, coach decided to go with Rivers because he just felt like he had the hot hand. And he was rewarded with 14 straight points. So when I see a tandem run for 200 yards and they look that good, I'm itching to see them again in another game. That's just me, okay? I'm itching to see because then now I'm going to have this ammunition to say I discovered 2 new backs for you guys, okay? And I'm the one that empowered them to be able to get the snaps. But no, because he was so hell-bent on getting Frank Gore, someone that he knows, touches, that he wasn't looking at the betterment of the New York Jets for the future. So not only was he not playing LaMichael, okay, he's also gets 2 young guys put together a spectacular game, and he rewards them by sitting them on the bench. That's all I need to know from that guy. He's not looking at ahead. He's not being innovative at all. And I'm not going to get into all the other little carries and stuff. And, Sam Darnold had 217 yards rushing, 5.9 yards per carry. Okay. So we already know that he was misused. We just discussed that just a second ago. So not only was Sam Darnold's athleticism misused, LaMichael Perine, a guy that you drafted, wasn't used right. Ty Johnson and Josh Adams, 2 guys who gave you your best rushing performance of the season, weren't rewarded and weren't utilized. And the one guy who was utilized is the guy who's not going to be playing in the NFL next year and doesn't help your roster in any form. Not to trade him, not for him to come back next year, none of that. Total failure from the running backs department from the top down, in my opinion. Now, again, guys, who are your favorite backs from this season? And do you think that there's a future with any of the backs that are currently on the roster? And let's start with Krista.
For me, I think you said it perfectly. My biggest gripe with Adam Gase is him always using Frank Gore. And he even used Frank Gore wrong, too, technically. Using him on wheel routes, which makes absolutely no sense. You use him on stupid screen passes, makes no sense. You run him down the middle like 90% of your plays. And it just got so predictable to the fact that Frank Gore was pretty much your offense, and you don't want that. I think you said it perfectly. It's absolutely mind-boggling how he did not use Ty Johnson or Josh Adams enough. And those were your 2 guys that were producing a lot. And I think the most thing that angered me the most about Adam Gase is after Ty Johnson's performance against the Oakland Raiders. I know I bring this up a lot, but it really, really gets on my nerves. He was just like, oh, well, he ran over 100 yards because it was just the Oakland Raiders. It's the Oakland Raiders, but he still got 100 yards. Things like that you don't want to hear from your head coach. And this is someone that claims he's an offensive guru. Like, wouldn't you have more game plans for a guy like Ty Johnson? Once you reward a guy like that or a guy like Josh Adams, like you mentioned before, he just became one-dimensional with Frank Gore, and it just became really annoying, became too predictable. And like you said, it was just an absolute failure. I like P. Ryan too, but all the running backs honestly are all a mystery. I can't tell you if any of them have a future as being a true feature back, but I do think they have a really good future of being a good backup. But it's just sad that we wasted time with these guys that we don't know if they could be that lead guy. Instead, we're all wondering, oh, we like Ty Johnson, I like Josh Adams, I like them all a lot too, but they're still a mystery besides the few snaps, and it's a shame that P. Ryan last game couldn't get any burn. I hope he's feeling better with the whole Corona thing, but I would love to see more of him. It's just an absolute disservice what Adam Gase has done, especially how he used Frank Gore 90% of his plays and how we couldn't use more of those young guys. And it's just absolutely sad. I mean, I want to bring them back simply because I want to see how they do. Because I still think we do need that running back. That's simply because I haven't seen enough from these guys. And it's just where we are at this point. And it's sad that Adam Gase is not creative enough. He calls himself an offensive guru, but you're like ranked 32nd all the time. So I'm trying not to curse because I'm just so mad at the fact that these running backs are held hostage for a guy named Frank Gore just to put him on wheel routes, screen passes, dumb plays like that. But yeah, I'm all for bringing him back. It's just sad that as fans we're just a mystery who could be the lead back when really we may have a lead back, we may not. It's just really, really sad at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, Krista. You know, it's one of those things too where you needed to use that athletic ability because it became so predictable. Like he did everything possible to make things harder for Sam Darnold, who to me doesn't have everything that you need in a franchise quarterback as it is. Like he didn't make anything easy. Like the Ravens make things easy for Lamar Jackson, so where he could just do what he does best and then not have to do too much more. Same thing with the Buffalo Bills, and now they've turned him into an absolute complete beast. I watched Josh Allen look off some defenders last game, and he looked like a straight stud, dude. Like his mechanics have completely changed. Like he's not the same quarterback. Even last year when I was making fun of him when he fumbled that ball and he kind of like threw it around, like I didn't know what he was doing. Like I actually made fun of that, and I was like, wow, this kid has a lot to work on, you know, but to me, the Bills are not carrying him anymore. The Bills have a really good team, but right now he's playing with a confidence. And you just didn't see that. You don't see that. You don't see that from this coach. If anything, what he did to this roster is he made everyone look small. You know, at least in my opinion, he made all these players look small and insignificant. And it's just not true. There's talent on this roster. And you're going to see it moving forward with the new coaching staff because there's going to be a lot of holdovers here. That are still going to be here, even though it's going to be a lot of turnover. It's going to be a lot of players here. And you're going to see their value in a new system, hopefully with the coach that utilizes the talents of these players. And you have to have a running game. And Ramon, I mean, what did you see from Ty Johnson and what did you see from these guys, you know, Adams and P. Ryan moving forward? And what did you like about them?
So I know I'm going to get attacked a little bit in the comments, but I don't really feel like running back is very high. It should be high on the list because, for one, we've already seen what happens when you have a running back. We already see what happens when you have a running back like Le'Veon Bell, right? So I know we paid him a lot of money, but when you draft a guy, we really don't need that high on the list. And a lot of people are saying, you know, draft Najee Harris, draft all these guys, but you got a guy like Ty Johnson, right? Let's look at him, right? So he was completely underused, and I feel extremely bad for that dude. That's the guy that I feel the worst for on the team because his first game he had 3 carries for 42 yards. You know, when we watched it, right? He had versus the Dolphins, three carries for 42 yards, 14 yards per carry, and then we watched Gase shut him down to put Frank Gore back in the game. We sat right here while right after the Raiders game. Me and you, Dan, we sat right here in these same chairs and we talked about it. We said, "Wow, we see Ty Johnson, we see Josh Adams. Maybe we'll see these guys again next week." But me and you both told each other, we were like, that was our expectation, but we knew what was going to happen, right? Frank Gore was going to come right back in, our all-pro running back, and he's going to get all the carries. And that was extremely frustrating. That was the last time I'm going to say that guy's name because I don't even want to say it again. But, yeah, so I think I personally am not a fan of La'Mical P. Ryan. Like, I was excited to see him play. I feel like Johnson, and I may be wrong, right? I'm not a running back expert, but I see that kid has everything that it takes to be a starting running back in the NFL and a running RB number one, because this kid he's quick. He's not only quick, but he's fast. He knows how to find the holes. Even when our offensive line was quote unquote bad, he was still finding holes.
Mhm.
Like he's that kid. He's not always falling forward. He's always running forward. He's always getting 4 or 5 yards at a time. Like when you don't think there's any ball and you get in your man, there's no gaps. He still finds a way to get through there. His cuts are quick. He protects the football. He does everything. I've seen him catch a few. I know his catching may not be as great as they say Lamichael P. Ryan's is. I'm not a huge fan. And when I go to Josh Adams, he's like the way he ran the football and the short amount of carries that we seen him get. He was what I thought Le'Veon Bell was gonna be. He runs so strong and at the same time, right? It's really hard to grab him. And then when you do grab him, he's ripping his leg out, Bo Jackson style. Like it was a great thing. So I would love to see Ty Johnson back. I would love to see Josh Adams back. And I know we just got Lamichael P. Ryan. I know it'd be like impossible to get rid of the dude or whatever the case is. But if we're going to draft a guy, I say those are the two that stay. We do not need 4 running backs. We do not need 4 running backs. And then I would honestly use that pick for something else. We need corners. Draft 1,000 corners. Draft edges. Draft something else. But I just think that we have 2 really good running backs. How do you find a great running back? You let the guy play when he shows you something.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's going to be the most difficult part of our offseason is that we were kind of set up for failure because we didn't get a chance to see what the young guys had.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Simon says it's such a small sample size on these running backs. Let's see them get 200 carries and we could see if they're good. But the problem is it's hard to give more than like 2 running backs, like 200 carries. It's not easy. You see, even with the Jets are bad and, not that many people let's go back to these stats and look at them for a second. And I'll show you the carry totals. Like Frank Gore at 187, Ty Johnson and Josh Adams combined didn't even have 100 touches, maybe Lamichael and Ty. So it's hard to spread it around throughout the season for multiple guys. So this is why this season was so damn important for this team, because you're so bad that you could get a really good look at Ty. You could get a really good look at Josh. You could get a really good look at Lamichael. And then going into the draft, okay, do I need to draft a running back? Can I pick up a free agent back, which we'll get to in a few moments? But like you didn't see enough, and now I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I want to see Ty Johnson again, and I know some people may think Josh Adams might be gone, but I like what he saw. Now, people say he runs too upright. So does Derrick Henry. A lot of people run upright. There's another guy that I'm going to talk about, Gus Edwards, as a free agent. A lot of these guys, these bigger guys, they run upright because they're not small and shifty. So it looks like they run upright. But if you get yards, that's all that matters. And everything I've seen from this combination, they've gotten yards. And I'd like to see them play together, spell each other. But I don't know, if a new coach is going to come in, if they're going to look the same. I don't know how the roster is going to look. These guys, they're the type of players. And like Ramon said, I feel bad for a guy like Ty Johnson because he's an easy cut for a new coach, right? Because he doesn't make a lot of money. He doesn't count against the cap. You could cut him and it's easy peasy for these guys. So, and I think that this would have been a good showcase for him on a bad team to show his worth. And I'm sure he'll get a job somewhere else. But I hope some of these guys come back and the coaching staff, as he's going over tape, the new coaching staff says, I like what these guys have. Because like Ramon said, we do have a lot of holes, and running back may not be the position to be drafting high. And then at that point, why are you going to waste a pick on a 5th-round running back I'd rather have Josh Adams or Ty Johnson get another crack at it than a 5th-round running back. We just drafted Lamichael. So it's like, why do that at that rate? To me, it's you kind of either take a higher running back, someone with a little bit more clout for a new quarterback, or even Sam Darnold if he stays. If not, I just don't see the value in doing that when you have backs here that can run the ball. So with that being said, I guess we could start going into some free agent running backs. And one of the running backs that I'm looking at, and, I don't think the Jets are going to go there, and I don't even think the Packers are going to let him go, to be honest. But Aaron Jones for the Packers is a free agent. And this guy is an absolute beast. And everyone is looking at Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP type season. and this and that. A lot of that has to do with Aaron Jones. And I'm just being honest with you. This guy is dynamic. As you could see, he has good tracking. He can catch the ball. And not only he's about 5'9", 200 and something pounds. He's a physical dude. When you get to the third and fourth quarter, he could start wearing on you. He can run in the middle. As you can see, he has the shifty footwork. Once he gets to the second level, he's a 3-down back. He could block, he could chip and roll out and catch balls like you see right here. And then he has the speed to turn it upfield and the strength to power through. And so, like John Bravo said in the chat, it's been a long time since the Jets have had like a really good featured running back, a guy who really does some damage. And you look at some of these highlights from this guy, and they're not doing anything spectacular for him, little dump off screens. They're just handing him the ball, and he's doing all of this work. Now, if you stop and freeze that frame on that last one, you could see, right, that offensive line, that center, that's going to be real important because we'll get into the offensive line in the center position, but McGovern with his contract is either going to have to slide to guard or they're going to have to find some kind of way to get him out the way because he just was not good at running the ball from the center position. Obviously, we're going to have a new guard, maybe two. And, but if you could do that, if you could secure that inside part of that offensive line and you could pair whoever your quarterback is, because here's the thing, right? If you stick with Sam Darnold, maybe you could do a trio of running backs or maybe a guy like Aaron Jones. But listen, he's going to be expensive, but what do you expect? What are we talking about here? All the good players are expensive, bro. They're all going to be expensive. You're talking about a guy, look at that, 5.5 yards per carry, almost 400 yards receiving, 47 receptions, as physical as he is, available as he is. I don't know. If he could be had, I would like to have him, to be honest, because imagine a rookie quarterback, just name it. I don't care who you think it is, Fields, Wilson, whatever it is, with a guy like Aaron Jones, that takes pressure off your young quarterback. Even someone like Sam Darnold, nobody is scared of Sam Darnold. If nobody knew that already, nobody is scared of him. And then nobody's scared of him throwing the ball deep. And that's why I keep continuing to attack Sam Darnold if I'm the defense. I keep putting hella pressure on Sam Darnold. And the reason why I do that is because why not? He can't throw the deep ball, so I'm going to send him and challenge him one-on-one. You get a running back like Aaron Jones, that type of guy, you're going to have to demand an extra guy in the box to deal with him. This is going to create more one-on-one opportunities for Sam Darnold if you would like to take him, if that's how the offense is designed. And if it's a rookie quarterback, it's only going to help him because it's going to give him that level of protection. And you don't want your rookie quarterback. You don't even want Sam Darnold throwing 30 times a game. You don't want that. You want him throwing in like the 18 to 24 range is where I would like somebody like Sam Darnold or a rookie quarterback to be. 22 throws a game. And I mean, listen, you got Joe Burrows, you got Herbert out there just throwing it all day. Listen, maybe the Jets can get one of those guys, but it's hard, right? It's hard. The Jets have been trying since Joe Namath to find a guy like that, and they haven't been able to find them. And so, it's hard. It's hard to find those guys who could just get up and sling it whenever they want to like that. And the Jets have failed miserably. And so I think a legit running back like Jones would be good. And Simon, I like by committee too. I like the committee approach as well. You guys stop being so damn critical. We got to go through multiple avenues to possibly find answers for this New York Jets team. I love running back by committee. Always have, always will. Fresh legs, I think, are good legs, and so they're ready to go. And then you also feed the hot hand. I'm very big on that. If you got a player who's in the zone, you want to keep feeding them as much as possible. Like when Becton is telling you, run the ball on the left side, I'm feeling it. And Gase is like, perfect, we're going to run it right up the middle. That's the type of guy that we need out the door, okay? When your left tackle's like, bro, I'm feeling it, let's go. Like, run it on my side. I got it. I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to run it your side. And then when he doesn't, when I'm in practice, I'm like, bro, I thought we were supposed to run it on the left side. What happened? And then everybody gets a good chuckle, but then it's like, I'm really serious too. You know what I mean? But like Gase he has no personal skills whatsoever. It seemed like, in my opinion, no players really attached to him. Everybody thought he was a good guy. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, bad person or nothing like that. To me, he's the type of guy that I think, because of his personality and because of his stubbornness, would be better as a coordinator than as a head coach, because as a head coach, you got to be able to manage a whole team, almost a whole organization, depending on what type of coach you are, and so I don't know. We'll see. But listen, if we get Aaron Jones, I'm not going to be complaining. That's for damn sure. So RJ, who's the next running back that you got on the list there? Because I don't have my list in front of me. What's the next one you got up for some highlights?
The next one we got up is going to be Kenyon Drake.
Okay, yeah. So we got Kenyon Drake. Okay, now Kenyon Drake, he's an interesting running back. All right, I don't really like Kenyon Drake if he was to come to the Jets, in my opinion. And the reason why, he's hurt a lot, and two, I think the best back to me on the Cardinals is Edwards. Like, that's my personal opinion. Like, I think he's the best running back. I think he's being underutilized on that roster, as not only because he's a good pass catcher, right? But they don't utilize him properly. I think he would be good to run 15 to 18 times a game and catch. Like, you have to use him, like, to me, like Eckler, and they're not using him. And the Cardinals made a huge mistake with that. But Kenyon Drake, he had a good year, so you can't really fault him. You look at Kenyon Drake, 615 snaps, 955 yards. Didn't catch a lot out of the backfield because, again, you have Edwards there, to catch out of the backfield, and that's how they would use him. I just thought he was underutilized, and I think Drake was a bit overrated. And he got paid a lot of money. He got paid $8 million, in that last year. He also had 3 fumbles, and he's going to command a lot of money, but not $8 million anymore. But I'm not willing to pay for that. Aaron Jones, I'm willing to pay for. I'm willing to pay. That's a all-around back who could do everything, 3 downs, and he's going to be there, and, like, I could go for that. But Kenyon Drake, I would pass. Who's the next one that you have on the list? And how do you feel about Kenyon Drake, Ramon?
I like him. As you said, I would much rather go with Aaron Jones. Especially, I think Aaron Jones has a better catching ability. Kenyon Drake is cool. But I still feel like we could get that out of, like, Ty Johnson and save the money there. That Kenyon Drake has never really impressed me, honestly. Watching him, slightly above average in my opinion. Nothing that I would go out and spend that money on, or even that roster slot at for that matter. But I'm gonna say I'm thinking Pac-Man Jones from the Bengals. I'm gonna say Aaron Jones.
What about you, Krista? Do you like Kenyon Drake? You think that could be a possible option? I mean, 10 touchdowns, 4 yards per carry while splitting with another running back isn't terrible stats,
Yeah, I'm trying not to hold my Alabama bias to this because I actually really do like Kenyon Drake, but a lot of things for me to say that if I want either running back, I know this is going to be vague. It depends what head coach we really hire. I mean, I'm for either Aaron Jones. I think, like you mentioned, Aaron Jones is probably the better running back because he catches the ball out of the backfield. But I really like Kenyon Drake, too. He's a really tough running back, too. You can see he's explosive. He can catch out of the backfield. You could also use him as a fullback if you really want to as well. And he's able to get those gains. I think if you're the Jets, I think for me, I personally would rather use some money on a wide receiver and draft a running back. I know that might be the more popular take, but I think for me, I would probably pass on both of them and use the money on a wide receiver and draft a running back like Travis Etienne or Najee Harris, especially if you draft a quarterback. But if you're not drafting a quarterback, I would much prefer to get a proven running back in the free agent market as in Aaron Jones or Kenyon Drake if we keep Sam. That's pretty much how I feel about the running back class and the draft class, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Like, we'll get into it a little bit more when we start talking about the college backs. But who else you got on the list for us? Who could we talk about and bring another option to? All right, so we got Todd Gurley. Now we're putting his name up there because we're talking about all the free agent backs. Todd Gurley, 678 yards, 9 touchdowns, reception yards, 164. Me personally, I think Todd, and I feel bad for him. I really, really do. He's lost a step, like a significant step. Those injuries, you could tell, like the Rams knew, and you could see it in a lot of his highlights. He just doesn't have the same snap. And, I just think that he was completely overrated. I feel like Atlanta should have went into a different direction, but, I think he is going to trend downwards as each year comes on. I think those knee injuries really had an effect on him. And unfortunately, he's somebody that I just really, really wouldn't be looking at all. And, I just have him on the list because we're going through top names, top running backs. And, me personally, I just don't like it. I don't think it would be a good move for the Jets. 27, I think you could that would be just to get a veteran in type of deal. And he, at $5 million, he's probably gonna be asking for at least $2-3 million.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to waste that money there. I'd rather give it to somebody else. Who else do we got on the list, brother? And please share this. Please go on YouTube. Please share. Let's get it popping here. Let's take us to the next level. We don't curse. We don't talk about politics. We just keep it moving. And so another running back that's interesting is Chris Carson. 681 yards, 4 yards per carry. When you look at Chris and you look at most of the running backs for Seattle, they are going to split carries. That's just how they run their offense, running back by committee. But you look at Chris, he's got that pop and strength. He has the footwork and the movement inside to really do damage. He's not just a straight ahead runner. You look at him catching the ball, good footwork, good touch there on the sideline. My daughter's trying to give me a hug here. Good night. I love you. You look at Chris, and I think that, on another team, he's close to 1,000-yard rusher. If he could stay healthy, he has had some issues with that as well, but he's close to 1,000-yard rusher as well, and he could do a bunch of different things. Chris Carson is an interesting money situation too. When you look at Chris, let me see how much that Chris Carson's making. Let me see. I can't really see how much he's making right here. Let me see. Go down here. Do I see it? No, I don't see it here. But that would be an interesting option for me for the Jets as well. But again, I think at this point, if you're looking at a Chris Carson to be your feature back, I think you're kind of lying to yourself a little bit, just a little bit. I think on maybe the Jets, you would say, yeah, he could be close to that 800-yard running back, something like that. But again, I would rather see Ty Johnson. I'd rather see Josh Adams over Chris Carson. So who else is on the free agent list before we get to the college? Who else do we got, RJ? JR. I always get confused. Gary. Got names all over the place. And what are you guys thinking? What are some free agent picks from you guys? I want to hear what you guys think. So for some of you guys, you got Madison. Arnaldo said Madison. Mike Davis. Mike Davis is super interesting to me. Mike Davis is really interesting to me because I had stake in Mike Davis in fantasy football this year because I had some running backs that were down. I got Mike Davis in a trade. And Mike Davis was really good for Carolina because to have a guy like Christian McCaffrey go down, you go, oh, man, this is just going to be a bummed out season. And, they didn't win a lot of games, new coach, new system, everything like that. But offensively, they look pretty good at times. And a lot of that had to do with Mike Davis's stable play. You look at his yards and you look at 3.9 yards per carry, you go, it doesn't really wow you. But if you actually watch Mike Davis, he put together some solid performances for a team who could do a little bit more up front. And he could do a little bit of everything. As you see on the outside, he has the speed. He looks like a bigger back, but he does have the speed. And he could catch out of the backfield too. He could do a little bit of everything for a football team. And so you look at a guy like him and you start going, that's not too bad. He made $3 million last year. He's 28 years old. He'll be 29 next year. Maybe you could get him for a little bit less than that. And he would be a nice veteran, I think, change of pace back. You got a guy I think you could start Mike Davis and get a guy like Ty Johnson in there, a guy like Michael Perine in there on third down. And I think Mike Davis is going to give you the strength up front, to get your first and second down runs. And I just like him. Honestly, if the Jets went after Mike Davis, I would be really, really happy, to be honest with you. I really would. Fournette, I would not be happy with. No, I thought, to me, Ronald Jones completely outperformed him this year. I don't know what the hell Tampa Bay is thinking. Ronald Jones is a beast, okay? And they don't use him correctly at all. If we had a chance to get Ronald Jones, I would get him because he could do everything. He's a monster, and they don't use him right. He could easily be a 1,200-yard back all day, and they just don't use him correctly. But Mike Davis, yeah, I think Mike Davis with a revamped offensive line in the interior, I like Mike Davis. So, that look out for that because that contract is reasonable. And if you don't want to waste high draft picks on that, then, And there you go, Leonard Fournette. I don't really like Leonard. I didn't like his attitude in Jacksonville. Talk about a straight up runner. He's a straight up runner as well. If you don't like that, I would rather not have him in the locker room with a young team. And I just think that there's other backs that could be had. Like there's nothing that Leonard Fournette provides that I don't think any of these other guys that we've been talking about can't do. And so I would rather go ahead and stick with what we have than go after a guy like Leonard Fournette. To me, he couldn't even take over Ronald Jones' position. He had an opportunity too. Ronald was hurt a couple of times this year, and it looked like for a second there, Fournette might have a chance to kind of split or take over the carries, and Jones just came in and completely outperformed him. And so I just think that we probably shouldn't go that route. I'm not really into that at all. Do we got anything else in there before we start getting into some of the college backs?
Before we do that, I'd like to say Mike Davis is definitely my favorite out of the bunch that we've picked out. It's super underrated, and it's something that a lot of us know if you've ever play sports, especially if you play like basketball or you're trying to get open field tackles and you're playing football. How shifty Mike Davis is ridiculous. He has those quick cuts like a Matt Forte. It's quick, it's agile, it's super fast, and you blink or you make the wrong move and he's gone. So that would be the guy I would definitely target. And Leonard Fournette, Fournette, however you pronounce it. No, he's another head case we don't need in the locker room.
Yeah.
We just and Joe Douglas isn't going to go for it. So, and I hope he doesn't go for it because we've gotten rid of Jamal Adams, we've gotten rid of Le'Veon Bell, and we don't need to backtrack. We don't need to go back to that. And I'm sure Leonard will be fairly cheap this offseason, but I hope we don't even look in this direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike Davis is someone, again, he might be one of my favorites on the list too. I mean, Aaron Jones obviously is my favorite on the list. But if not, I mean, if you're talking about a guy who's comparable as far as being able to produce on both sides of the football, for the price, I think that would be really good. You have Philip Lindsay, another guy I think who's been underutilized. He had some injuries, but I mean, that guy he's really quick, and he's a guy that knows how to run, into the second level. When you see him, when he gets in the second level, he knows how to use his shiftiness without using too much effort. Like everything is really clean. Like when you watch these highlights right here, look at his movements as he runs through the second level of the defense. He's not a long strider. He's not a guy that's cutting back and forth. Everything is just quick, shifty movements. A solid runner. I think he's another guy to look at. He made $575,000 last year. He's going to be 28 years old. You can put him in a three back rotation. I think he could fit very, very well if healthy. He's not going to command more than, you could probably give him, you can give him a year deal, but you can give him a 2-year deal, for less than $1 million per season and probably get away with it. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the market is. I mean, the market's not very strong out there. There's a lot of decent backs on this list when you look at it. I mean, a lot of guys that can come in and fill a rotation. Oh, James White. I forgot about James White, man. Okay, listen. I know you guys are looking at this, right? And you're looking at this 3.5 yards per carry, and you're like, nah, right? Like, I'm over it. I'd rather have Leonard Fournette. I love James White, okay, because James White can catch the ball out of the backfield. And that's it, depending on what quarterback you have, he could be really dangerous. I mean, he's a guy, again, plays for the Patriots. Dude, Bill Belichick has no loyalty. It doesn't matter what you've done for him from the running back position. Look at Sony Michel. Sony Michel might be one of the most underutilized backs in the history of football with a Patriots uniform. And, he doesn't care. James White is a guy you can get for a relatively good price. I don't think he would come to the Jets anyways. And he'll probably go back to the Patriots on a decent, contract. But I like him catching out of the backfield. And if you go with a guy like, let's say, we can only go with what we have on the roster right now. Let's say you started a Ty Johnson. I think a guy like James White on third down could come in, professionalism, knows all about playing with pros, all-stars, Super Bowl winners. And, he can go out there, catch the ball like an all-star, and really change some things back there. And so, I like that. I could definitely roll with that. Tevin Coleman, I think his time has passed.
Yeah.
The injuries keep stacking for that kid. You know, when he was coming out of Atlanta, I really liked him, but now I'm not really sure. So that's pretty much the free agent running backs that are available. Again, not a lot that you could really invest into when you look at that list, except for like I would say Aaron Jones if you're going to really dump money. I'm not mistaken. Isn't Gus Edwards a free agent too?
I think he's restricted free agent.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because that's a guy that I would say too is like I like Gus Edwards. You want to talk about a
Yeah.
guy that gets underutilized? I mean, he is
Mhm.
in that forever rotation in Baltimore where they just use all these running backs. But Gus Edwards continues to get yards. He's a strong running back. He do a little bit of everything. If he was open, if he was just an unrestricted free agent, I would think that the Jets should definitely make a play for him being about 26 years old. But if the Jets don't go for an Aaron Jones and they want a veteran back, I think, pretty much the panel seems like we could be set on Mike Davis being an option because it wouldn't cost too much. He could do a little bit of everything. And again, they put the lead running back duties on his shoulders after McCaffrey went down. And, he did well. And, listen, the Panthers threw the ball a lot this year too. They had some receivers. You had Robbie, you had Samuels. They have another receiver there. And so I think with the Jets, he could do significantly better. I think with either the rookie quarterback or even Sam Darnold, we're going to have to run the ball a lot. Again, 25, 30 times a game. I know maybe we get a quarterback in the draft that could sling the ball and we become one of those types of offenses. But when you're not one of those guys like Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, those types of guys, you got to run the football. You have to, because you have to control the clock, because you don't want to overexpose your quarterback and have him throw 35 times a game. You want to control the clock, keep their offense off the field. And those are the things that you have to do. And so, those are the free agent running backs. Now let's start getting into some college backs here, right? Because I know Krista can get really, really excited about one running back. And so who do we got here? All right, so we got Travis Etienne, 5'10", 205. I think you just see right here how dynamic he could be. Yeah. But listen, he's also playing against accountants and future trainers and stuff like that, So when you look at him run, I don't know. For me, college backs are such a mystery, right? Because you're playing teams that you set up, and a lot of times you don't play talented teams that are on your level, and you're playing with offensive linemen and quarterbacks and receivers and all this kind of stuff that set the table for you. But Etienne really worked hard this year, on cleaning some things up. And, look at the dynamic ability to be able to get outside. Obviously, you see the change of pace there. He has, he's going to be a late first round running back, early second round running back. And when you look at where the Jets pick, if the Jets get their quarterback at 3, right, you're thinking, at 2, you're thinking, all right, late round back here, maybe you can switch over. But to me, my personal favorite is right here is Najee Harris.
Yeah.
If you're going to take a back, I think in the late first round, I think this is the guy right here. Because I know people are going to say, oh, well, everyone's just hyping up all the bigger running backs that have come out of Alabama. No, this kid is good, man. He's strong. Yes, he's an upright runner, but he's strong. He gets yards. I don't know what to tell you. He's worked on his pass catching ability this year, big time. And that's one of the things that he was trying to work on this year. And the reason being is because he didn't want to be that one-dimensional big back failure at Alabama or trying to live up to, Derrick Henry or these types of guys. So he worked really, really hard on his pass catching ability. And I think he did a really good job. And then you have Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis. This guy right here, if the Jets could get him a little bit in the later rounds, I would not touch him in the first round. I wouldn't even touch him in the first pick in the second round. And I don't know if he'll extend any longer than that. This kid, he didn't play this year because of COVID. He had 4 family members that died from COVID. And his freshman year didn't get a lot of touches. So his sophomore year, if I'm not mistaken, was his big year. I think it was 1,400 yards. This guy is really, really dynamic, and he's super underrated. But he's only had 1 year under his belt, and that's why his stock is going to drop. He opted to start training for the NFL draft this year. but he is a good running back. And I would not be surprised, and he's probably not going to be on the Jets, just where his talent level is and where we draft. I don't think it's going to match up. I think he would get taken. But I think you're going to find that you're going to see this guy's name called in a pro uniform somewhere, and you're going to be like, oh, that's Kenneth Gainwell, like out of Memphis. Like, he's not going to be forgotten. I really, really don't think so. And so what if you guys had to pick out of those three backs, right? Which one would you pick, and knowing where they're going to be drafted at, would you take a chance on a running back with that Seattle pick late? Oh, sorry.
Okay, all right. I know. Me and you talked about this one before, and I always say it. I go with the hype with the Alabama running backs, and I think like I don't know. I see Najee Harris, and I feel the same way everybody else does about that dude. If you get the opportunity, and you're going to go with a running back, because you know how I feel about using the running back pick. Especially being a Jets fan, running back is a very, very sensitive subject for us with our past experience here this season. But I would definitely take Najee Harris. Absolutely. I didn't actually know much about the guy from Memphis until we were discussing. Yeah. But yeah, I would take Najee Harris for sure. And that's all I really got to say. I'm gonna let Krista. I know she's excited about this one, so I'll let her take this one over.
I think for me, if you're going to go quarterback number 2, Najee Harris is your guy. This is a guy that knows how to wear defenses down. He's been working on his pass catching skills, like Daniel has mentioned. What most impresses me about Najee Harris is he's a very patient runner. He doesn't just go at his first hole all the time. That's how he makes all his plays. He always looks all around. He's a very patient runner. That's how he gets his yards. He has very deceiving speed. What I mean is he may not be like Travis Etienne where he's that explosive, but if you see the plays like that where he can just go when he gets to the open field, he's able to run in space. That I think Najee Harris is the all-around type back that you want. That's my number one pick. I'd have no problem taking him if he's available by the time we pick again with the Seattle Seahawks pick. That's depending who our coach is, of course, and what we do in free agency. But he's the guy that I would pick. I think he's going to be very, very good. It wouldn't surprise me if he somehow wins Rookie of the Year. Somehow he's one of the candidates for it. I think he's going to be that good. And I know a lot of people are going to say you're a biased Alabama fan. You're just saying it. But I really, really like Najee Harris. He's a guy that can do it all. And as far as Travis Etienne, I like Travis Etienne too. I think he has the ability to be like an Alvin Kamara type guy, a Swiss Army knife. He's very, very explosive. That's like the first thing you see when you watch his film is how fast he is, how he's able to go downfield with his speed. But I think for me, I think Najee Harris is the guy that I would lean more towards going after because he's a guy that can do it all. I know he runs upright too, but he takes care of himself. He does everything well. Travis Etienne, I know for me is his body frame. It kind of concerns me a bit, but I think if you want an offense that want a Swiss Army knife, you might want to go with Travis Etienne. And I kind of like with Ramon too. I didn't know much about Kenny Gainwell too until I started watching highlights of him. But he kind of reminds me a little bit. I know this might be I might be exaggerating a little bit. Kind of has some skills to Christian McCaffrey a little bit. He's able to catch out of the backfield. He's explosive. He gets open. He's a very underrated guy meaning that you probably haven't heard about him because you hear Travis Etienne, you hear Najee Harris, but he's a guy that could be really, really good pick if you're able to pick him in a second, third round, whatever team's able to do that, you could get a hell of a running back from him because I see Christian McCaffrey vibe just watching his highlight tapes.
Yeah, and listen, when you look at Gainwell, right, the reason why you haven't heard him again, 2018 as a freshman, he played 4 games. He had 4 attempts for 91 yards and a touchdown with an 80-yard rush. So a big play explosion there. And then in 2019, he was the lead guy. You know, you're talking about 231 attempts for 6.32 yards per rush, 13 TDs. This kid could play. And his highlights were – he didn't play last year, so from 2 years ago. So he's probably a little bigger, maybe even a little faster, right? But he might be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, right? And he's been through a lot. This is a tough kid. Again, he dealt through a tough year And, I think if you get this kid, you get a guy who could catch out of the backfield. Right now he's listed as 191. He's probably going to come into camp at 200 pounds. So he's going to look a little bit more physically imposing than he looks. But he's a guy that could catch the ball in the backfield. And you look at his tracking down the sideline. So he could do a little bit of everything, in my opinion. So there's a reason why he's ranked as a top 5, just around a top 5 running back coming out of college, and he hasn't even played all year. So I think, a lot of people were high on him, and the whole COVID thing hit, and, it hit him pretty hard and hit his family pretty hard. But I think, that late round pick with Seattle, I think it's all going to come down to the head coach, right? And I guess you could say that for any position, but there's just so much unknown with this team, because when you look at it, it's all going to come down to scheme. Like Najee Harris is not a guy that I would want to be my starting running back if I'm running a run pass option type of thing, So he's more of a traditional type of guy where you're going to feed him the ball. So it all depends on the coach and what type of offense we're going to have for the Jets. And honestly, I think what type of quarterback. I think if Sam Darnold's the quarterback, you can definitely have him be the running back, because you don't even use Sam Darnold's athleticism. So if the next coach doesn't decide to really use that from him, he's definitely a guy that I would like. Again, we got to – I know the measurements are important. You look at the size of someone's hands, this, that, height, weight, all this kind of stuff. It does matter. But there's just certain players that it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just good ball players, and they're just going to find open holes. They're going to catch footballs. Oh, this guy – look at Amari Cooper. He's too slow. He can't get in and out of his routes. Everything's about technique, but if he gets jammed up, does he have the speed? This, that. The guy just catches balls. That's what he does. And it just translated over to the pros perfectly. You look at a guy like Derrick Henry, there was questions about him. There's always questions about these bigger running backs. But you see, if you put the right offensive line in place, he could become a beast. So you look at a 6'2", 230-pound running back with some athleticism. Nobody wants to really tackle that. You know what I mean? You really got to put some effort into it. It's not one of these smaller backs. You got to come with it. So it all depends on what type of offense they want to run, and how imposing they want to be. But there's just something about that guy. I have no question that I guess it depends where he goes, but I really think Najee Harris is going to pop. If I'm sitting there at 25, 26, whatever the pick is going to be at, maybe even later, I'm running up there and I'm getting Najee Harris. I'm selecting my quarterback, me personally, at 2. And then I'm going to get my running back at 3. And then in the second round, I'm going to go get a receiver. And then I'm going to start building from there and start getting some depth, because I honestly think that Joe Douglas is really going to attack the offensive line at free agency again. I think that there's some guys to be had. And I did an article about it, and we'll get into it a lot more when we talk about guards and centers and what have you. But listen, Sewell would be nice, but Sewell is not a need by any means. I think Fant could play right tackle. I think Fant is a good enough right tackle to play out there. And so you don't need Sewell. Would it be nice to have him? Yeah, but what you need is a better quarterback. I'll tell you that much, because you can't have what you just have. You just can't have that. Okay, and obviously you're not going to take a corner, at number 2 right now. And here's another thing. Everyone's like, oh, just move Becton to the right side. What?
Oh, God.
What are you talking about?
I don't even –
what?
I don't even like the message that sends to Becton for a dude that has worked his tail off at that position to be like, all right, it's kind of sending them a message saying well, we got a guy that could be better or is better, because if I'm on a team and they're pulling in a new guy and he's going to take my spot and I gotta move over to learn a whole new spot. Hey, that dude just got here. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's a good mix.
It's okay, well, you almost made the Pro Bowl, but we're going to move you to the right side. And here's another thing. Dude, agents ain't going to have that. They're going to be telling their clients, dude, the money that a left tackle gets and the money that a right tackle gets is different. Okay, we all know. And not just that, when you're putting together Hall of Fame careers, contracts, everything, left tackle is a premier position. Okay, everybody talks about it, right? Why would I move my client that just almost made the Pro Bowl, that is considered by every NFL scout to be a lockdown guy who's going to be there for the next 10, 12 years or whatever? Why would he just openly move to the right side? For what? The New York Jets? No, that ain't going to work. So you got to think about that. That's a discussion, okay? And, would Sewell be happy moving to the right side if you drafted him, knowing that how good of a tackle he is? So, yeah, it would be great to have him, but I think we have a right tackle that's good enough. I'm more concerned with the center position. I'm more concerned with the guard position, that interior, especially if you keep Sam Darnold, because you see he doesn't have the ability to step into the pocket and throw the ball down the field, that he's still a little bit skittish. And he's one of those guys right now that is more of like locks on one receiver and doesn't really scan the field consistently. And you need time for that. And if not, you need a guy that can move on the outside and do some things. And I don't know what type of offense we're going to have and how it's going to dictate to Sam Darnold's play, because he looked awful on the edges, looking and scanning the field. That was one of his strengths the first 2 years of his career. And last year, it just wasn't. And the receivers were better. And I don't want to hear the offensive line. And the offensive line was bad, but he had time on plays, on drives, in games. And he made a lot of mistakes. And I think we've seen what his ceiling is. And I'm not leaving that number 2 pick without a quarterback. I'm sorry. I just can't no more. And not just that, it's for many, many reasons. Yeah. You reset the clock. And when you're picking head coaches, you're going to have way more head coaches interview for your job and want to take your job if you're not forcing Sam Darnold on them. If they have the option to be able to take, they may love Sam Darnold, but just to have the option, it's going to be better, because you're going to be able to take that $25 million and spread it elsewhere. And you're going to be able to lock a quarterback together with a GM and a head coach in a scheme. And I like that, because if Sam fails next year, then you're kind of stuck in limbo in a weaker quarterback draft class. And the Jets could be, we talked about it, get a veteran quarterback and go through that whole thing. And then you win 7-8 games, maybe even make the playoffs. Then it pushes you further away from a franchise guy over and over again. And so, the way I look at the New York Jets is they got to go quarterback number 2, or they have to trade down, collect some more picks, and then select a quarterback that they like. But I think at number 2, you have, besides Trevor Lawrence, and it's not over yet, okay? Because if I'm Trevor Fields, if I'm Justin Fields, right? A lot of these guys are opting out of the combine and doing the private workouts on campus. If I'm Justin, I'm going to the combine because he has the skill set to look really good. He's not one of those guys that I think you have to hide. So athletically, and all those combine things are all about the athletics of the position. And I think he would do outstanding, and it's going to make his draft stock go up, depending on Jacksonville and who they hire as head coach. I'm telling you right now, do not lock Trevor Lawrence in the number 1 pick just yet. It depends who goes there and how Justin Fields finish. If he finishes here against Alabama and he finishes in the combine, you're going to have interesting discussions here. You really are. And honestly, I would love Trevor Lawrence to fall to the Jets at 2, but just even for the Jets to maybe confirm what Justin Fields is or isn't, right? I think that I would love to just have him have a strong finish. So then that way the new head coach comes in and he could have the quarterback pick that he wants besides Trevor Lawrence if he's not available. And so I think the Jets are going to go number 2. They're going to go with a quarterback. So when you look at that later rounds, I mean, to pair a quarterback, Justin Fields and Najee Harris, let's say, or Wilson and Najee Harris with a new center and a new guard and a second round or a free agent receiver to pair with Mims and Crowder in the slot. I mean, that looks good. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. I'm not all right with 160 yards passing, dude. I'm not all right with that in a passing league. It's time to move on. And so I think Najee Harris would be a compliment. I think as a group, from the free agent side of it, I think we all kind of like Mike Davis. Yeah. If he was a guy the Jets looked at. And then as far as the college prospect, we know who Krista likes. And both me and Ramon both like Najee. And so those would be our picks. If we were there and they were there, those would be the guys that we would roll with. And that's it, man. I mean, hey, we went through the running back position together. Next week, I think we're going to do coaches and we'll pick another position group. We'll either do coaching and wide receiver. Yeah, maybe we'll do coaching and wide receiver. next week, unless something major happens or whatever. But we'll do coaches who are available, and we'll do wide receivers next week. But, thank you guys so much for tuning in each and every week. Don't forget on Sundays, we usually do our pregame show with Kevin. Now it's going to change a little bit. And so we're going to be doing some different things on Sundays for you guys to listen to. We also have our Twitter page ran by Ramon at Guru Jets. We have the YouTube page, which is super important. If you're on YouTube, please go on and subscribe at Jets Guru. And we also have the Instagram page. Just type in Jets Guru there as well. But we appreciate your support, you guys hanging in with us. We're going to be here every Wednesday or Thursday, so keep coming on the Jets Guru page to see what day we come on. Right now we're on Thursdays. We're going to be doing this each and every week. We're going to be breaking down the whole team, which will lead us right into free agency and the draft. And we're going to be with you. We very rarely take weeks off unless we're sick or there's emergencies. And so a lot of people can't say that, man. We're out here, we're grinding, for you guys and for the New York Jets. We're writing new stories, every other day. We're putting together different things for you. We're posting constantly on Twitter. We're scouring, all these different people who have inside tracks on the Jets and posting it on the page. So you could get a little bit of everything. You get a little bit of everything coming to the Jets Guru page. It's not just, clowning around or something. We're trying to really, really give you some good Jets takes, and we have some great fans. We even got a following in Germany. We got a Jets Germany page that loves our stuff out there. Would love for them to continue and share. Let's go international with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm still going to be broke, but I'm going to give you everything I got. You know what I mean? So let's take it everywhere we could go. But we appreciate the support. You guys are amazing. Have a good night. Be safe out there. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Mets, baby. Getting Francisco Lindor for next to nothing. New York is not going to be by boo. Get out of here. We don't get boo. The Nationals, you guys had your 1 year. You guys are going to be in the basement now behind the Memphis Braves for a few years, but at least you got your chip. But
we did.
But no, we want to thank JR or Gary or whatever the hell they call him. We want to thank him so much for putting together this template for us, and all the video that you see, all the designs and graphics that you see are done by him. He's doing an amazing job with the show. I mean, I don't think you could really find too many Facebook shows that put in the quality of work that we do all around. We're doing a really good job, and we hope to take it to YouTube and into other places and be, the first stop go for a lot of you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you Sunday on the audio. So wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be Apple or Google, we're on there. So just type in Jets Guru. We'll have a new episode for you by, 11 a.m. or so, right before the playoff games get started. And just remember, the clock is on for the Jets, because now the New York Jets are the oldest team to not make a playoff. Once the Browns got in there, we now got – and imagine that, man. It didn't seem like it was that long ago Rex Ryan was yelling and we were in the AFC Championship game. We thought Mark Sanchez was going to be a franchise quarterback. And, man, things were so high. I was young then. I had money and stuff, it was crazy. You know what I mean? And I didn't even have a kid. I was married to a gremlin. Dude, it was a crazy time, bro. It was wild. And 10 years, man, 10 years, going on 11 years. That's wild, bro. So we don't want to be like how we were in the early 90s, man. We were a joke. And so hopefully we get a new coach, new quarterback, new system, and start changing the culture of the Jets in the right way to and get where we need to be, which is playoff games and hopefully Super Bowls. So thank you so much. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You guys are amazing. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Go Jets.
All I hear, go get the money. So I go get it. Hate means I do something right. So I'ma let 'em. Yeah, I'ma let 'em. Yeah.